Let's try this. Can you hear me now? I feel like that old Sprint commercial. Let's see if it's working. Still no sound. We have some sound. Okay. We're going in the right direction. Awesome. Awesome. Okay. So I'll pull this back up really quickly. Hi, I am a human. I am going to switch the cameras over to the dot cam so you can watch me doing all of the questions for the PSAT 2021. There are several versions of the test. The test version that I am doing is version W. If you check on the front of your test book towards the bottom, down here is where you'll see letters. I also have the half moon version, and then within this version, there's several different kinds. So all of the questions are going to be the same. They're just going to be in different orders for different students. So my number one may not be your number one. It may be your number two or number three. So let's go ahead and get started with each of the questions. This first section is the no calculator section. You are typically given 25 minutes. There's 17 questions. It does give you a formula sheet. I encourage you to also write down a few additional formulas before the questions. When the proctor tells you to begin, you can quickly jot down like quadratic formula, slope, midpoint, maybe standard form of a circle. Some of those would be helpful. So let's go ahead and get started. Number one. This question here is asking which of the following is equivalent to the expression above. Equivalent meaning equal to. So we want one of these to be equal to this. So our first step would be to distribute these numbers here in the front to these numbers behind in our parentheses. So starting up front, I would have negative 5x times 3x, giving me negative 15x squared minus 10x, and then negative 3x. So negative 3x squared minus 12x. None of those options are here, so let's continue. We need to combine like terms. Negative 15 minus 3 is negative 18x squared, and negative 10x minus 12x is going to give us negative 22x. Again, unfortunately, none of these options are here. However, the common factor of negative 2 seems to be an option on 3 of our choices, because even if I took out a negative, I'm still left with 18 and 22, not 9 and 11, so I can eliminate that answer choice. By taking out a negative 2, that changes this expression here into 9x squared minus 11x. And that looks like option number 2B. Or no, I'm sorry, C. Yes, with the x's, because we didn't take the x out. Got it. Okay, moving on to number 2. This number 2 for me was our graph. And it asked for line M shown in the XY plane. So this here's line N. Line K, which is not shown, is perpendicular. Perpendicular would mean that it has the opposite reciprocal slope to line N. So what would that slope of line K actually be? So a couple ways of going about this. I think the easiest way would be just figure out what the slope of line N is and do the opposite reciprocal. So a couple ways to find slope. I like to find the easy points on the graph, like these two, which are pretty clear. Negative 1, 3, and 0, 2. You can use your slope formula if you want. We do have a graph, and if you remember, slope is rise over run. It's easier to maybe just count it this time and just say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is my rise over 1, which is my run. So for line N, my slope is 5. That would mean for the perpendicular slope, or line K, I'm going to have the opposite reciprocal. So the opposite of 5 over 1 is 1 over 5. The opposite of positive is negative, so I'm going with answer choice B. Number 3 asks, what is the value of n? What value of n is the solution to this equation given? So I have 12n plus 9 equals 6n minus 9. Well, in order to find a solution or a zero or an intercept, I'm going to have to move everything to one side. So in this case, I am going to subtract 9 to get rid of it over here and subtract the 6n to get rid of it over here. Make sure you're always combining your like terms. You can't subtract 9 from the n. They're different. So the n's have to line up and the constants have to line up. So 12 minus 6 is 6n. Negative 9 minus 9 is negative 18. When we divide each of these by 6, n equals negative 3. So we wanted to pick answer choice A. For number 4, we have another graph. Which equation is the graph shown? Well, the easiest way to do this is to look for the intercept. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's only one option that has the 6 in front. So for time purposes, when you're taking the test, that would be your best bet and the fastest way to answer your question. This was a level 2 question. I think it's the first one on this test. It was level 2. On to the next side. Number 5. Oh, refocus. There we go. All right. Number 5. This one is a word problem. Remember, with word problems, we always want to chunk our word problems, meaning we don't want to read it all the way through and then get lost. So they give us this equation and they said the number of subscribers to a newsletter can be modeled by this formula. Okay, and now they're going to tell us what each part of the formula is. I like to label my parts, where f of x is the estimated number of subscribers. That guy. So he is the number of subscribers. And on the xth day after the newsletter was published. So up here, this is our time frame or our days. So here's our actual question. Which of the following is the best interpretation of f of 10 equals 200 in this context? Well, because we labeled it, makes it a little easier. We know that this 10 goes here for the x for functions, and this f of x is going to equal 200. So the number of subscribers is going to be 200 on which day? The 10th day. So let's read through our answer choices. On the 10th day, that looks pretty good. On the 10th day, on the 200th day, nope. 200th day, nope. So I've got it narrowed down now just using my x's. And I know that the number of subscribers has to equal 200. So it has to be 200 or 200 more than on the 9th day. That wouldn't make sense. So we're going to go with A because we need it on the 10th day to be 200 subscribers. For number 6, moving over, we have this picture and another word problem. A geologist places a beacon on the leading edge of the glacier to measure its speed. A stationary receiver is placed 200 feet away from the beacon. So here's my beacon, here's my receiver, 200 feet. It's good to label our pictures while we are going through. In the direction of the motion of the glacier as represented in the diagram above. The beacon is observed to move at a constant rate. Well, that's good. Constant means linear. And after 30 days, it has moved 185 feet. Well, 185 feet in 30 days. So we started at 200. We're down to 185. That means that's a difference of 15 feet. it's at a constant rate, so we're going to take that and divide it by however many days that was, and it was 30 days. So 15 divided by 30 is going to give us that 0.5. So at a rate of 0.5 a day. Okay. Now here's our actual question. Assuming the beacon continues to move at the same rate, so this rate here that we figured out, how far from the receiver will the beacon be after a total of 90 days? Well, if one day is 0.5, let's take 0.5 and multiply it by 90. Now, we don't have a calculator, but I do know that 9 times 5 is 45. I also know that I moved my decimal one place this way and one place this way, so that kind of cancels out. So I know that the total is 45. Remember, my starting place was 200. 200 minus the 45 in the 90 days gives me my answer of 155 feet. Okay, number 7. That's kind of hard to get them all on the screen. We have a shaded region for representing all of the solutions in which system of inequalities. So in this case, we're going to have to solve a few of the inequalities. The best way to do this is to just find a test point. Like this one's an easy one. I'll use -3, 0 because it falls in line with both. Make sure you don't pick any points over here because that's not going to fall where you need it to fall. And we can plug it in. Now, these show us y is less than. If y is less than or equal to something, we'd be shading underneath the line. And both lines are being shaded on top. So I'm going to go ahead and eliminate answer choices A and C because they don't make sense. Now, using my test point, I only have 2 options left. It's either going to be the 1/3 x minus 2 or 3x minus 2. And then here, they're switching the 2 and the 1. So we can try either one to see which one will work. So let's start with the 1/3 option. If I use this one, y is greater than or equal to 1/3 x minus 2. Remember, I'm using my test point here. So 0 would have to be greater than or equal to 1/3 times -3 minus 2. Remember, all whole numbers have that secret 1. We can even eliminate this and say 1 times -1. -1 minus 2 is -3. 0 is definitely greater than -3, so this equation would work. And we're going to want to test it again in the second point. This y is greater than or equal to 2x plus 1, and replace that with -3 plus 1. So -6 plus 1 is -5. And again, 0 is still greater than or equal to -5. Both equations work for our test point. So I don't need to continue. This one might be one I may star up here so that I can check D later if I have time, but this test goes by very quickly. So we got to move quicker on the actual day. All right. So next one. Ooh. Which linear equation has no solution? Well, no solution would mean that the equation is false. We can't solve it. So in this case, I have all variables. So 6x equals 3x. Well, that's potentially true depending on what x is. What if x is 0? Same thing here. I would have 6x plus 1 equals 4x, leaving me with 1 equals -2x. I wouldn't be able to check that without my x, but again, 1 wouldn't equal -2. I know, looking down here, though, at choice D, 6x plus 3 equals 6x. Well, no matter what I plug in here, I still have this plus 3 hanging out. Plus 3, positive 3 will never equal 0, because if I plug in a 0 here, I'm going to end up having to write on my paper 3 equals 0. That's not true, so there's no solution for D. Okay, moving on to number 9. This looks like standard form for a quadratic. So in the equation above, A, B, and C are non-zero constants. If the equation has exactly one solution, which of the following must be true? Well, to test number of solutions, we use what's called a discriminant. And let's hope I spell this correctly. Yay. And remember, the discriminant is that part that is underneath the radical sign in the quadratic formula. So it's that b squared minus 4ac part. So when we're looking at our discriminant, if the discriminant is exactly equal to 0, that's when we have one real solution. If it's greater than 0, it's 2 real solutions. It's less than 0, it's 2 imaginary. We go over that in Algebra 2. But in this case, we're looking for one solution. So we want our discriminant to be equal to 0. So I'm going to take the discriminant, which is this, and I'm going to set it equal to 0. Now, none of those options are given. This one's probably our best bet with the b squared. If I add 4ac to both sides, I am here. And that is option C. And I know that that's going to work because when the discriminant is 0, there's one solution. Number 10. Number 10 is asking us to look at the graph. And to complete the graph of the function, f is shown in the xy plane above. How many solutions does it have? Solutions or x's or zeros. So we're just going to count how many times it crosses this x-axis. Looks like 3. There's our answer. Number 11. The solution to the given system of equations is xy. What's the value of x minus y? So in this case, we are going to need to solve our system of equations. And I think I'm going to use substitution. So let's subtract y from both sides of this original and say x equals 5 minus y, and use that here. So I'm going to say 5 minus y squared minus y squared is 100. Remember with this, it's actually 5y times 5 minus y. Do not just square the 5 and the y because you're going to miss the middle term. So you can use the FOIL method again if that's easiest. And you should come up with 25 minus 10y plus y squared. And then we'll bring down the minus y squared equals 100. Well, this is convenient. That will cancel out. So 25 minus 10y equals 100. I'm going to subtract 25 from both sides. And negative 10y equals 75 when that's divided by a negative 10. Y equals negative 7.5. Now that I know what y is, I can solve for my x. Remember that equation up top that gave us x plus y is 5. Well, then x plus negative 7.5 equals 5. I'm going to go ahead and just add 7.5 to both sides, and x is going to equal 12.5. I'm not quite done because remember the actual question was asking me to solve x minus y. So I'm actually solving 12.5 minus negative 7.5. Is it here? So when I add these together, it looks like I am going to have 12.5 plus 7.5, and that's going to give me 20. So answer choice C. Okay. Going on to number 12, I have a couple graphs for an option here. They want to know a farmer can grow 30 tons of pumpkins per acre in soil type 1. 20 tons of acre per acre in soil 2. So 30 for 1, 20 for type 2. So those are type. Okay. If the farmer plans to grow 360 ton total, then of pumpkins, the farmer's plan can be modeled by our equation here. So we got our 30, they're calling this X and Y. Where X and Y are the number of acres of soil type 1 and type 2 respectively. So which graph would represent this equation? So we could call this X type 1, this Y is type 2. And then we can maybe plug in an option. Let's say we don't have any type 1 and we want to do this all with type 2. And let's figure out what our intercept would be. Well, we'd be here. This would be 0. And when we divide by 20, remember with fractions that end in 0, we can always just drop the zeros. And then it's easier and we can figure out that Y is 18. The only one with an 18 intercept looks like choice A. So we're going to go with that one. And that would make sense. The more, if we had none of type 1, we'd have all of type 2. And if we had all of type 1 and none of type, or all of type 2 and none of type 1, it'd go the other way. So that graph makes sense. Okay, number 13. What is the maximum value of the given graph? Maximum value just means the vertex point. And if we remember, vertex form for a quadratic looks like this, and our vertex is our HK. So in this point, we're looking here and here for our HK, and the maximum value is the Y point of the vertex, so negative 50 from right here, back here. Okay, and moving to, that's all the multiple choice for the non-calculator section. Now we have 4 what are called gridding questions. So your gridding questions look like these. Remember, your answer has to fit into all 4 boxes. You do have to write it and bubble. If you have a fraction, use the bar. If you have a decimal, use the dot. If your answer doesn't fit into the 4 full boxes, then you need to reduce or redo it. Hopefully you review these rules before the test. You don't want to have to be figuring out and reading through them during. That would waste some of your precious test time. So let's look here. This says the function P shown gives the perimeter in inches of a rectangle. We're looking for a rectangle. Remember, perimeter means we're going to add up all the sides. We know what the total perimeter is of a rectangle that has a width of W inches and a length of, so a width of W, a length of 3W plus 2. For each inch that the width increases, so this guy here, if I add 1 to each one, so we'll change this guy to W plus 1, how is that going to affect my perimeter? How many inches is my perimeter in my rectangle going to increase? So my perimeter, when I add an inch, is now, instead of it being 8W, I'm changing that to W plus 1 plus 4 from my equation up here. And I'm going to solve this. So let's distribute this 8. W plus 8 plus 4. And of course, we're going to have to subtract the original perimeter because we're trying to find the difference of what our original. So our new perimeter minus our original perimeter, figure out what our difference is. And it looks like we are going to get 8 because our negative is going to get distributed. 8W, I'll just say plus 12, minus 8W minus 4. Now 8W minus 8W cancels out. So I'm looking at 12 minus 4. So the perimeter of the rectangle will increase by 8 inches every time I add 1 inch to the width. Okay. Number 15, another system of equations. Systems of equations shows up a lot on the SAT. These linear systems can be solved using elimination or substitution. In this case, we are looking for what is the value of x. Well, I have a positive and a negative y right here already. So my best bet's probably going to be elimination. I'm going to want to multiply this top one by 2. That'll give me a 2x plus a 2y equals 24. You rewrite that bottom equation like this. And when I add these together, 2x plus x is 3x. My y's cancel out. And 24 plus 9 is going to give me 33. When I divide both sides by 3, x equals 11. There's my answer. When you're bubbling on the bubble sheet, you only need to put in the 11. Don't worry about any of the other stuff. So this one you would have just bubbled an 8, this one just an 11. All right, 16. We have the solutions to the quadratic equation above can be written as this or this, where r and t are constants. So what the heck is t? Well, in our quadratic equation, remember, x equals negative b plus or minus the square root, b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. There's a really catchy YouTube song with this that you can watch if you can't memorize that one. So for us to figure out what t is, it looks like we should just plug into our discriminant, this part underneath the radical, because that's what's here. So let's see. My a is 1, my b is -4, and my c is +2. Using this formula up here, I'm going to say -4 squared minus 4 times 1 times 2. And -4 squared is just 16. -4 times 1 is -4. -4 times 2 is going to give me a -8. Remember, that's still under our square root. So 16 minus 8, still square root 8. What is the value of t? T is the one under the square root. So it is going to equal 8. They're never going to ask you questions that you won't be able to do without a calculator. The square root of 8 doesn't work out perfectly, so you don't have to worry about it in this section. All right. Last but not least, a gift wrapping company charges customers based on the surface area of a gift box. Here's our gift box. The company will charge 30 cents per square foot of surface area. So what is the company charging in dollars to gift wrap this box shown? And then they tell us to disregard the $sign when we're gridding. So for surface area, our surface area formula, we're going to multiply the width times the length plus the height times the length plus the height times the width times 2. Again, another formula that is not, I don't think it's on our formula sheet. Nope. Only the volume formula. So surface area formula is another formula you would have to have memorized. Now, in this case, our length is 2, our height is 1, and our width is also 2. So plugging into our formula, we're going to have 2 times 2 times 2 plus 1 times 2 plus 1 times 2. And 2 times 2 is 4. 1 times 2 is 2. 1 times 2 is still 2. So 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 2 times 8 equals 16. Do not stop at 16 because that's not what they were asking. They were asking us, what will the company charge in dollars to gift wrap the box shown? 16 is only the surface area. Now, 30 cents for a square foot, and I have 16 square feet. So I need to multiply my 30 cents times 16. So that's going to give me that. And then 1, 2, 1, 2. Looks like $4. Oops, sorry. $4.80. And remember, when gridding, we don't need to write that. So in our grid-in, I would have just put 4, the dot, the 8, and the 0. Okay. Hopefully you finished all of your questions within about 20 minutes or so, and you were giving yourself another 5 minutes or so to go back, check your answers, check your bubble sheet, make sure you didn't miss bubble or skip anything, and then you would get a short break. Now, I'm going to move right into section 4 and keep going with the questions. Now, section 4 is a little bit harder. You do have a calculator. You do have 45 minutes and 31 questions. Again, not all the questions on my test will go in the same order as the questions on your test. So you may have to shuffle a little bit to get to your questions. Let's go ahead and start here. So with section 4, my first question asked me, what is the median? Median means middle of the data set shown. So the middle number looks like 12. I have 2 to the left and 2 to the right. So my answer is B. 12 is the median. So just because it's the calculator section, I may not use my actual calculator on everything, and that's helpful. Number 2, the Mississippi River has a length of 2,340 miles. Which value would be the closest to the length in kilometers of the river? And they were nice enough to give us the conversion right here. So 1 mile is 1.61. So in our calculator, we're going to take the number of miles, multiply it by the number of kilometers, and get 3,767. Answer choice C. We just had to quickly type that in. Number 3, the function f is defined by f of x here. So for what x will this equal 7? Well, let's set this equal to 7 and solve for x. We're going to add 5 to both sides and divide by 6. And our answer is A, 2. So whenever we have the number inside, we would have replaced the x. Because the number is on the other side of the equal sign, then I know that that's what my function needs to be set equal to. Number 4, which expression is equivalent? Again, they want us to take this and find what is equal. This is the second one like this. Hopefully we're picking up on some of this math vocabulary. It looks like we're going to use our FOIL method. Let's see, negative 4x to the 5th times negative 2x to the 4th. So negative 4x to the 5th, negative 2x to the 4th. Negative 4 times negative 2 is going to give me this 8. And when I multiply exponents, so they're actually kind of testing multiple things on this question. We need to add exponents when we are multiplying. 5 times 4 is 9. So I have 8x to the 9th, positive 8x to the 9th. So not that guy, not that guy, not that guy, that guy. So I'm not going to spend too much time on these types of questions when there's some cheats or quicker ways. If you want to go back when you have extra time, that would be something to check. But I'm going to keep going so that I give myself time to answer all of them in the 45 minutes. Number 5, brass is a metal alloy that consists of copper and zinc. High brass is 65% copper by mass. Low brass is 80% copper by mass. If a factory uses 2,000 kilograms of copper to produce X kilograms of high brass and Y kilograms of low brass, which of these equations would represent this situation? So by percentage, that's going to be a 0.65 and a 0.80. We were doing X and Y. And they're saying when we add these together, we should have a total of 2,000. So it looks like A would be our best bet. This one has our variables wrong. This one, I'm not really sure how that would give us our answer by adding these in any function or multiplying them. So we're going to go with A. All right. Sorry. I always have to keep moving my dot cam on you. I want to make sure I'm close enough you can actually see it in case you don't have your test book. Number 6, another graph. Get used to the graphs. They don't go away. They're going to be on the SAT too. The line shown in the graph of the function f, if the line is shifted 6 units down. So we're taking this guy here and we're going to move him from this 2 down 6. So that's actually going to leave us at -4 for the new intercept. So the resulting line is the graph of the function g, which could be, so which of the following could be g? Well, I know my intercept's got to be -4. There's only one option with -4. They're going easy on us. Typically, on the SAT, there won't be only one choice with the intercept. It's just because this is PSAT. If that were the case, our next step would then be to solve our slope. Our options would be 1 and 2, and we could do that easily from the graph by counting up and over or finding maybe 2 points on our graph and using those. But in this case, they went easy on us. There's only one option. Number 7. When the expression x squared plus 9x minus 36 is factored into this form here, where a and b are integers, which of the following could be the value of a? Well, let's go ahead and factor this real quick. So our factors of 36 that multiply together to give me -36 and add to give me +9. My best bet looks like +12 and -3, because 12 times -3 is -36. 12 minus 3 is 9. So I'm going to use these choices. And they want the positive version. So I'm going to go with 12 for A. -3 would have worked, but there's no -3 option. A population density of a certain neighborhood in Chicago is approximately 11,909 people per square mile. The area of this is 1.75 square miles. So which value best approximates the population of the neighborhood? Well, population density is when we take the number of people and we divide it by the land area. So again, another formula that should be pretty familiar. It's pretty easy to remember. Take the number of people and divide it. So we know our population density. They already gave that to us here at the beginning. So let's plug that in over here. We know our area is 1.75. What we don't know is the number of people. So in order to solve that, we need to multiply by 1.75. We do have our calculator for this part, and we will get to 20,840. Oh, option C. And the reason we multiply is to get rid of the fraction right here. And of course, whatever we do to one side, we do to the other side to isolate that x. Number 9, the side length of square A, B, C, D. So this side length is going to be 3 times long, 3 times larger, it looks like. Oh, maybe I drew these backwards then. EF, GH. Make sure you align the letters. So if this one goes ABC, A goes to E, B goes to F in the same spots. The perimeter of this guy is going to be how many times the perimeter of this guy? Well, if this guy's 3 times, let's make our life easy. Make that a 1. So we'd say 1 Remember, perimeter, we're adding up all the way around. 2, 3, 4, 3, 6, 9, 12. So it's going to be 3 times bigger because 4 times 3 is 12. Number 10. Our statistics question. They always throw in a random topic in there, 1 or 2 questions from different ones. You don't necessarily need to take a whole statistics class. What we do need to understand here is which of the following statements best compares standard deviation. Standard deviation basically means how spread out our data is. So to solve for the actual standard deviation, you would find the mean of the data and then be able to subtract from each data point. So in this case, if we're looking at set A, we're pretty spread out. So that standard deviation is definitely going to be bigger than this one, where it kind of shows all the data squished together. So we're going to go with A. The bigger the spread, the bigger the standard deviation. All right, next one. Number 11. What are all the solutions to the given equations? Well, typically that's a hint that there's probably more than one. Not always. So let's check it. So we have an absolute value. So 4 times the absolute value of 3x minus 5 equals 16. Well, I'm going to divide both sides by 4 to get rid of this so I can isolate that absolute value part. So that 3x minus 5 is over here equal to 4. Now with absolute value, remember, we also have to do the negative version. So I'm going to make that a -4 because hypothetically, if this were -4, inside the absolute value would become +4, and then when we multiplied it by this +4, we'd get +16. So there's 2 cases, case A and case B, the positive and the negative. So let's do both of them. Let's add 5 here so that 3x equals 1. So x potentially equals 1/3. Or we'll add 5 here and 3x equals 9. Meaning x could also equal 3. So 1/3 or 3, option D. All right. Halfway. Number 12. For a piano, the ratio of the fundamental frequency of a note to the fundamental frequency of the next higher note is approximately 1 to 1.06. It looks like we're doing ratios here. A certain note has a fundamental frequency of 370. So which of the following would be the closest fundamental frequency in hertz? So I'm going to just put 1 to 1.06 is equal to 370 over x. Using my calculator, I'm going to cross multiply. And that's going to give me 392. So that would be our next higher note. Okay. Number 13. If 15x plus 6 equals -2, what is the value of 5x? Well, 15x, 6, -2. If I divide everything by 3, 15x divided by 3 is 5x. 6 divided by 3 is 2. Well, then 5x plus 2 is -2/3. Number 14. An exoplanet is a planet that orbits a star outside of our solar system. Nice, we're getting a little science lesson in. The scatter plot shows the relationship between x, the number of years since 1989, and y, the cumulative number of discovered exoplanets. So the exponential model for the data is shown below. Well, the exponential model is positive. It's going this way. So I'm going to go ahead and X out B and D with the negative. And that's going to leave me with two options, option A and option C. If you have your graphing calculator, you could totally type this in real quick and look on your graph. Or logically, we can look at this and see at the rate that it is going up is much higher than 1.25. So if my exponent here was at a 5, this thing would be shooting up real quick. But the exponent is here on the 1.25, and it's going up a little bit slower. So that's why I'm going to choose this one. Number 15, another graph. Lots and lots of graphs. And it's more science. Yeah, gravity. In 1798, Henry Cavendish measured Earth's specific gravity, so the ratio of the density of Earth to the density of water. His measurements are summarized in the histogram above. So the first bar represents the measurements of at least 4.8, but less than 5. So from here down is what they're saying. And then the second bar would then be from at least 5 to 5.2. And so on. So they kind of explain the graph to us. That's nice. They don't always do that. How many of his measurements are at least 5.4 but less than 5.8? So really they're asking us here, how much data is in here? So we just have to count. This one looks like it's up at the 9. This one's up to the 7. So we're just going to add 9 plus 7, and that is going to give me 16. So my answer is D. Number 16, the graph of the quadratic function is shown in the xy plane. Which of the following could define f? I have 2 zeros that I could potentially use, and they are on the left side over here, meaning they're negative numbers. So when I'm putting those in factored form, remember, I'm actually flipping the sign, saying maybe it's x plus 5 or 6, so that when it's equal to 0, remember I switch it, I get something like that, and that would make sense to be a negative. So I'm going to look for the one that has 2 positives. Negative, negative, no. Negative, positive, no. Positive, negative, still no. Positive, positive. There it is. That's the one we're looking for. And 17. The House of Representatives includes members from all 50 states. On November 12, 2014, it had 87 members from California, Colorado, and New York, and that would have been 20% of the total. So 87 is 20% of how many representatives we're not from. So of our total, that's what we got to figure out first, and then we can figure out how many we're not from there. If 87 is 20% of what number, you can cross multiply. 87 times 100 divided by 20 in our calculator gives us 435. So there's actually 435 total members. 87 of them make up California, Colorado, and New York. How many representatives were not from California, Colorado, or New York? So 435 minus 87 gives us 348, option B. That was a little bit of a two-step problem. And as we progress through this test, we will see that more and more. The problems will become more involved, 2, 3, 4 steps. For number 18, this one says, if xy is the solution to the given system, what is the value of x plus y? Yet another system of equations. If you study nothing else for the SAT, study systems of equations. There's a ton of them on there. So let's do what we did last time. We're going to use our substitution. So I'll just move this over and rewrite this equation like this. So x is going to equal 10 minus 2. And I'll substitute that into my first equation here so that I can figure out what y is, because now I only have one variable. And then I'm going to combine my like terms. So my -4 plus 3, which is going to be 20 minus 1 equals 13. And I'm going to subtract 20 from both sides. Negative y is going to give me -7. So when I divide those by -1, because I want positive y is 7. Don't choose C yet. Now we have to solve for x, because remember, this is why I underline as I go through. I don't want to accidentally see 7 and choose it and move on when really the question was saying what is the value of x plus 7. So let's keep going. Our top equation was x plus 2y equals 10. So x plus 14 is 10, meaning x is -4. And they want me to add them. So -4 plus 7 is 3. So there is my answer A. Be really careful with these. Read them very carefully so you don't accidentally choose the difference. Okay. Number 19 and 20, they're going to use this graph. So this is a 2-in-1. On the SAT, they will do this with the 3-in-1s, 2-in-1s. So this is very typical. So we're going to have some information that's going to pertain to both questions. So we always want to read this part first so we actually understand, when they're asking us about fuel capacity, where we're getting that information. So the Harvey Bakery owns 3 trucks. It's truck A, truck B, truck C. And the table lists selected data for each truck. The maximum fuel capacity is the volume of fuel that the fuel tank holds when full. The average fuel consumption would be the mean number of gallons of fuel consumed per mile when the truck is being driven. Awesome. Okay. The maximum fuel capacity of truck A. That's this guy, truck A, maximum fuel capacity is going to be greater than the maximum fuel capacity of truck B. So yes, so 18 minus 12, it's 6 greater. So what percent is 6 compared to this truck B? Looks like it's half of truck B, so that would be P percent, 50%. So answer choice C. It's actually 150% more, but they're just wanting to know the difference. So we'd have to go with 50. We already know it's a full 12 more. And for 20, in a week, truck C consumed 15 gallons of fuel. How many miles did they travel that week? Well, they were going 15 gallons. And using the average fuel capacity, this guy here, we're going to want to divide that to see if it is going to be 0.04 per mile. And we did 15 gallons per mile. And 15 gallons, my calculator says 375 feet. They did approximately 375 miles on a full tank. It's pretty efficient for a truck. 21. Which of the following situations is best modeled by an increasing linear function? Linear is constant. So if we are doing something with percentage, that's not going to be constant because 15% of 1 is not going to be equivalent to 15% of 2, 15% of 3. It's always going to change. We need it to be the same. We need it constant. So anything with that percent, I'm going to get rid of. And then it said increasing. Well, this says the clothing chains hires additional or the theater group performs fewer. Fewer is not increasing. So I'm going with answer choice B. Look for your key terms when you're looking through your answer choice and try to eliminate the ones you know it cannot be. Okay, again, we have one of those 2-in-1s with questions 22 and 23. So this one starts with the power to weight ratio of a car is the car's power in horsepower divided by its weight in pounds. The acceleration time of a car in seconds is the time it takes the car to accelerate from 0 to 60. So how long it takes, the heavier the power to weight ratio. That makes sense. Okay, the scatter plot shows the power to weight ratio of the acceleration time for each of 7 high performance cars. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then they stuck a line of best fit for the data shown. Nice of them. All right, let's look at our question. For how many of these 7 high performance cars is the acceleration time predicted? So this line is the predicted line of best fit less than the actual acceleration. So we want to see how many of these dots are less than the line. How many of them are under? 1, 2, 3. 3 dots are under the predicted line. So I'm going with answer choice A. Okay. On 23, they are asking us, one of the 7 high performance cars is to be selected at random. What's the probability? There we go, probabilities in there, finally, that the selected car will have an acceleration time greater than 2.5 seconds and a power to weight ratio greater than 2/8 horsepower. So we're always with probability. We're going to put what we want over the total possible. So what do we want? We want to know how many have 2.5 seconds and greater than 2.8. So let's look at our graph. Here's 2.5. So draw a line. So we're only looking above that blue line I just drew. And are greater than 2/8. So we're looking here. So it looks like our magic box is here. There's 3 of them because we need it to be above the 2.8 line, so here, and above the 2.5 line, so here. So there's only those 3 left. So we want 3 out of the total 7 because remember, it was 1 of 7. They actually gave us that. So D. All right. Moving to 24. Okay, the graphs of the 2 given equations intersect at points 1, 2, and 3, 8 in the xy plane. For what values of x does the graph of the linear equation lie above the graph of the exponential? So the exponential graph, just a quick sketch, would do something like this. Because it's 2x is positive, it's going up, 3x minus 1, so it's down here with a slope of 3/1, so it's going to look a little bit like, let's see if I can graph this, a little bit like this, and we know that the 2 touching points are 1, 2, 3, 8. So which value of x does the graph of the linear equation lie above the exponential? It's just this little part here where it would actually be above. So it'd be between the 1 and the 3. And we know that from our given points, even if I didn't sketch. So choice A. And moving on, 25. Thanks for hanging in there, guys. All right, how many solutions does the given system of equations have? So actually, if I multiply this by 4, that gives me 20x minus 12y equals 40. That and that are the same line. Same line is always going to be infinitely many. You can find easy tricks like that, make it go much faster, and you don't actually have to math for those. For number 26, for positive values of J and K, J is 25% of K. So J is actually 25% of K. Which expression represents K in terms of J? Okay, so I'm gonna, well, they don't have 0.25. They only have actual 25. So we're going to have to use the 100. We could also plug in. That's not a bad option. And we know the 25 is going to end up on the bottom here to get rid of it. So it's not going to be here because this would be the 0.25. So with the 100 would be the only one to work. 25 can't go on the top because we divided it. So answer choice C. Okay, 27. Amani pours iced tea into an empty dispenser at a rate of X liters every Y minutes. Which expression represents the number of minutes it would take Amani to fill the dispenser to 11 liters? The best bet here is just plug in numbers. Pick some nice numbers. 1 liter every, 2 minutes. Which one of these would work? Well, if it's 11 liters, for 2 minutes divided by each liter, this one would be the only one that would work for us. It wouldn't make sense for us to divide by Y when that's the minutes. You'd want to divide the liters if we are trying to figure out number of minutes. All right, grid-ins. Yay, multiple choice it has been done. Hopefully, you've taken about 30 so minutes to do the 27 multiple choice questions. That way you still have, or even 35 minutes, but that way you can give yourself maybe 1.5 minutes or 2 minutes for these last 4, and then you can go back and check your work. Whenever you're practicing these, you always want to be timing yourself as well. So let's look at these grid-ins. Number 28 for me is this number of House representatives on the dot plots. The dot plots shown above are the number of House representatives in states with fewer than 10 representatives for the 16 eastern states and 21 western states in the United States. So what is the median number? Hey, there's that back. Median meaning middle number of the House representatives for all 37 states. Well, middle of 37 is 18 and a half. So the 18th and 19th, we would take those, add them together, and divide if they are not the same. Well, in this case, looks like we have 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 over here. So the 18th one, the way we would figure this out is add up within each one. So there's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of these ones. 3, 4, 5 twos. 3 threes. And let's see, 6 fours, 3 fives, 2 sixes, 3 sevens, 4 eights, 4 nines. So where's the middle between 1 through 9? It's the 18th or 19th one. So 12, 13, 14, 15, it's right here. Oh, 18 and 19 are 4, so we don't have to average anything. It's going to be 4. You can count from either direction. Number 29. A spinner is divided into sections of equal size. Each section is either blue or green. So that's here, blue or green. And then they are either labeled an even number or an odd number as we are looking at this table. So if a spinner landed in a section with an odd number, so we know it's going to be one of these 15, right? We can eliminate the even. They told us it's an odd number. What's the probability? There we go again, probability. Want over total possible. So we want to know that they landed in blue. That's this guy. So we want the blue odd out of the total, which is 15. So you could have put it in your grid in as 5 over 15. You could have reduced that fraction to 1 over 3. You could have even put it in as the decimal point 33. I know that the 33 repeats, but they don't give you that option on your grid in. So one of those 3. probably would have gone with 1/3 because that's the easiest. And sometimes they take 0.34, but try not to round on these. All right, 2 left. Thanks for hanging in there, guys. Number 30, an equation of the line shown in the xy plane can be written as ax plus by equals 12, where a and b are constants. What's a? Well, for this one, it looks like we have some points. We have 0, 6. We have 4, 0. Well, if I plug those into my equation, this guy here, I think I can solve it and say the slope is going to be down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 over 4 x, y, and we know that the intercept is positive 6. So we're just taking that and putting it back into standard form. Let's add the 6 over 4x to both sides and multiplying it by 2 because this is 12 and I have 6. So 2 times 6 is 12 over 4 plus 2y. That's an x equals 12. 12 over 4, that's 3. 3x plus 2y equals 12. They wanted a. They want that guy. 3. Last but not least, number 31. The function given models the horsepower at the wheels of a vehicle with a poorly maintained diesel engine as a function of the engine speed x in revolutions per minute, where it is here. What is the engine speed in revolutions per minute at which the vehicle's estimated horsepower at the wheels is greatest? Well, they give this quadratic function in vertex form. There's a negative out front, so that tells me it's going like this. The greatest would be the maximum. So really, I'm just going to need the vertex points in vertex form already. Say 1905, 310 on my graph. And they want the x or the y, the engine speed. So we were doing engine speed going this way, so they want the 1905. Okay. All right, so that is the last question from the 2021 PSAT math calculator and no calculator. I'll give it a few seconds if anybody has any questions. They can go ahead and type them into the chat and I will do my best to answer them. Otherwise, I believe we are all set. And you guys will be good to go. Thanks for tuning in and listening, and hopefully doing these math problems helped you through your PSAT. We also will be doing some SAT workshops for the upcoming March 2nd and March 12th test. We have workshops for the upcoming May 7th and June 6th, it looks like, is the next test. As well, each year we do also offer PSAT workshops at the beginning of the year before students take it in October. Okay. Oh, Allison, you are so welcome. Have a good one. I will leave this on another minute or so in case there's anybody else or any other questions. And oh, we finished a little early. Awesome. All right, guys, that's sweet. Best of luck. Hopefully you guys know what you need to work on and which questions you struggled with, which topics, and you can reach out to one of our centers and we can hook you up with one of our tutors to perfect those sections. All right. Oh, thank you. Super big one. Glad that you felt it was awesome. All right, guys, have a good night. And Miss Sheila will be on here Tuesday night to go over verbal with you. So So tune in with her. She'll do the first 2 sections. I know we kind of went out of order, sorry. That way you'll get the whole test. All right.